Jim Carroll, Ralph Baber, psychology takeaway. You need a dose of the real. Life's absurd. We know the deal. Did you hear? Don't let it get you down. Turn that frown. Upside down, upside down, 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 upside.
Well, it's October 31st. You know what that means.
Halloween.
Yep, and we have the whole crew in here today. I don't know where Ralph is.
No, but he's been replaced by a scary clown.
Mm-hmm. We were in a coffee shop this morning. We saw some scary people too, didn't we?
We did, although they were construction workers and scary enough that we didn't ask about their costumes
Right.
because they were covered with cement and psychological ugliness.
And we're joined by Jacob here today. And you notice I've got a Viking hat on. Oh, Jacob's a big Viking fan, so didn't do it for that reason.
I'll say I have to point it out because he's also wearing a Lions shirt. So and they play this week, so it's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah,
there.
well, it is kind of. But the Viking hat goes back to some ancient DNA, I think, that
Right.
I'm sharing. So, hey, it's Halloween.
It's Halloween.
We've been
it's
sort of-
trick or treat.
Yeah.
And it is the perhaps one celebration that is widely spread in North America and around the world that is older than the usual Christmas celebration because Christmas goes back about 2,000 years.
Uh-huh.
And the celebration of Halloween goes back somewhere around 3,000 maybe 3,500 years.
Okay, wow. Now, I trace it back to the Celts. Did
Yeah.
you see it before then?
Yeah, and the Picts, who were the original settlers of Britain, they had a harvest festival,
Yeah.
which morphed into the Celtic harvest festival, which morphed into, and we can trace a whole history.
Yeah. Yep. So we're going to do that. And, with Halloween, we think about spookiness and, witches flying through the air. We see adults celebrating, adults like Jacob here, respected technologist on the fourth floor of the respected library here at Central Michigan University. And we walked in. There was a witch in the corridor. Walked in a little further. There's Dorothy with her dog. And there's the fairy queen. And, these are respected educators, Ralph.
Yes.
Why do we go bonkers on Halloween?
Well, that goes back to the Celtic celebration, which they believed that Halloween was a time in the world where the barrier between the afterlife and the spirit world and the real world, as they knew it, was very thin.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they did was dress up. And the reason they dressed up was they hoped to disguise themselves so that the spirits who came through the thin world, who were evil, would not seize them.
Okay.
So they were in disguise.
Okay. And then this later morphed into the Catholic Church's tradition of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day.
Yeah.
And then All Saints' Day was preceded by the Hallowed Day. Halloween.
Hallowed Eve.
Hallowed Eve. Yep.
So Hallowed Eve became what kind of, in some ways, was intended to replace the pagan, the world is thin tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, it did, in the sense that it gave a Christian religious overtone to the night. but
Yeah.
it didn't change some of the behaviors, like
Okay.
dressing up,
Mm-hmm.
going out, and in this case, instead of doing trick or treating, people went souling.
Because they're after the souls of their dead departed, right?
Well, what they did was they went to houses and they said, "I
Oh.
will pray for your departed
If you give me a soul,
if you give me
little
a
cake.
soul cake."
soul cake. Yeah.
So, a beggar or a poor person might go back to their domicile, wherever it was, with a whole bag full of pastries
Uh-huh.
that would be enough to keep them alive for 2 or 3 days.
Okay. It's kind of like with Halloween now. Kids come to the door saying trick or treat. They don't ask for souls. They ask for candy,
Yeah.
which might, I've seen some kids with like pillowcases full of candy. It's going to last not 2 or 3 days. It's going to last 2 or 3 months.
Well, that's always assuming there's enough preservative in the candy. So I took off my scary clown mask, and the reason I did that was that I wanted to be able to use my seeing assisted devices, i.e., my glasses. So, but one of the things that is very common in today's world, and you can see it in Batman and the Riddler, you can see it in all kinds of horror movies where the lead villainous character is a scary clown.
Yeah. I wonder where that one started.
Well, I think a lot of people are afraid of clowns, and
Yeah.
part of the reason for that, I think, psychologically, is clowns have masked emotions because of their face paint. You can't tell what they're thinking. They paint on a big smile or a big frown, but do they really mean it? What is known as, and it's a term that sounds really strange, but it's the uncanny valley effect.
Uncanny Valley?
Uncanny valley effect.
Okay.
Now, a clown's makeup and distorted, exaggerated features make their appearance seem kind of both human and off.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's unsettling to our brains.
Let's see your mask again, Ralph. Not on, just... Yeah, you can see it here. I mean, green hair. Well, most of us in the 4th floor of Park Library don't usually have green hair. And the nose, well, and the eye
Painted
stuff
on.
around the eyes, yeah, that forehead kind of thing. It is unsettling, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
not... Jacob, what do you think?
It is rather unsettling. I'm not a fan of clowns ever since there was that weird clown thing that was going on in 2020,
Yeah.
and
And people were saying, I saw an evil clown.
yeah. Ever since then, I've kind of been not a fan of clowns.
Well, I never did figure out how you could get 18 clowns into a little mini car.
Yeah, that was always a good one too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they have magical qualities of some sort.
So some sort,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and the other thing is, clowns often have what we might call in psychological terms transgressive behavior. Yes. And that is to say, they violate social norms.
Yeah, and they can do that with impunity at least on Halloween, can't they?
They can. And so you see, 2 clowns or 6 clowns, and one of them has an inflated bladder, kind of like a balloon that looks like a club.
Uh-huh.
And he walks around and
Bopping
smacks
people.
people over the head. So that's an example of
Sure.
transgressive behavior.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that on October 31st with your boss. Want to go down and see Phil?
He's not here today, so
Safe to say, yes, I do.
Okay. Hey, and Alex, we're sorry that you're missing it, but you're in California, where I suppose you're seeing lots of unusual costumes.
Yeah, and one of the things that we went down, I went down, Jim didn't do it, but I went down to one of the Halloween costumes stores,
Uh-huh. Yeah, we have several of them around town.
and I said, "What's popular today?"
Okay.
And basically, the clerk in the store said, "What we're looking at is either stuff that comes out of comic books."
Mm-hmm.
Or stuff that comes out of a religious tradition,
Uh-huh.
if you will. And women particularly, are dressing up in really sexy outfits that come out of comic books, or they're dressing up like angels or witches,
Uh-huh.
which are traditional, but also very sexy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the costume is deliberately abbreviated.
Okay. Well, if you think back to the Peanuts Halloween show, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And we'll
Right.
talk about pumpkins in a minute. Lucy says, you should wear a costume that's in direct opposition or direct contrast to your real personality. Now, she's wearing a witch costume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in contrast.
Yeah. So, hey, my grandkids were over yesterday, and then they went to their school where they had a Halloween celebration, and they were all, they all had costumes, and the three of them each got an award for their costume, or not a prize, but what do you call it when you get first, second, third?
Yeah.
Anyhow, Johann was dressed as Link from Zelda. You know,
Okay.
you
Yep.
know this?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, all right. And he got number one for that. Yeah. Elijah was dressed as the Grim Reaper, complete with a scythe.
Okay.
And then Titus, I almost forgot the name there for a minute. Titus was dressed as a ninja. So they had
Okay.
these, suits on that they got at the store, but they looked pretty good in them.
Yeah.
When you and I were trick or treating, Ralph, back in the day, we did not have Halloween stores and we didn't have costumes. We had to make our own, right?
Right. And one of the memories of Halloween, I've been doing an on-the-spot survey of a lot of people saying, what was your best memory of Halloween? And a lot of people remember trick-or-treating best.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the costume, sometimes we got loaded up with candy and so on. But for me, the memory I have that's most vivid is dressing up as a cowboy, which was very common in
Yeah,
the
I think I had
50s. We had
cowboy
cowboys on
phase, yeah.
television. And so I had the boots, the chaps, the cap pistols, the vest, the hat, and Halloween in Sault Ste. Marie in Canada. It snowed about 4 inches that day, and my mother made me wear a plastic bag over my costume.
Oh, dear. Moms will do that.
I was really bummed out about that because it was a terrific costume.
Uh-huh. Okay. That was probably the year that I had made a paper mache head and wore it. Just like a clown thing, but it was huge. It was I used a beach ball as the form.
As the form, yeah.
And then just a cape over top of it. The flying pumpkin. Okay. Now, what's this thing that you got in front of you, Ralph?
Well, this is a skeleton of a cat.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that is very common today for Halloween is skeletons of various things, including giants, which are somewhere around 12 feet tall, humans,
Uh-huh.
skeletons of dogs or monsters that are designed to crawl out of your front yard. You set them down in the yard and
Maybe, yeah,
fluff
I've
some
seen.
grass around them.
Yeah, and they move.
They move.
Yeah, that's new this year, I think.
Yeah.
At least for me.
And there's still a lot of inflatables, including, although I didn't buy it, one that we saw in a local store that was a witch inflatable that was 20 feet tall.
Oh, that's a big witch.
Yeah.
Really big witch.
Yes. And down the street from you, you have a dragon
A dragon.
and the headless horseman, right?
Right. And in the other direction, there's a guy who's really into Halloween, and he has his whole yard set up as a combination of graveyard and Monsterville.
I've seen that one. Yep. A lot of time and effort went into that, not to mention money.
Yeah.
Now, we started with kind of the history, going back to around 600 A.D., and then All Souls Day comes in around 800, 900 A.D., and we move along, into the medieval period, into the Elizabethan period, and scary things were happening on a daily basis during that period, right? The plagues were there.
Yep.
People were dying of cholera. Couldn't drink the water, and so there was a lot of emphasis on perhaps, this evil stuff that's happening is the result of some kind of external force. Those things that you were talking about before, getting through,
Yeah.
the thin places.
And one of the things that started happening about that time was great fear of witches, to the
Yeah.
point where people said, I mean, today, let's take an example. If you're a police officer and somebody doesn't like what you have done, they find out who you are, who your wife is, who your kids are, what school they go to, and they dox you, which is a fancy term for saying they put out your identity on
Right.
the web, and hoping maybe that something bad happens to you or your family. Well, in those days, doxing was also done in a different way. Doxing was, that old lady is a witch. And that old lady who was identified as a witch, or that young sensual woman who was identified as a witch, could be taken out, tied to a pole, thrown into a pond, the pole held down. If she drowned, she was innocent.
Right. And
If she came up and was still alive, she was a witch.
Yeah.
You lose or you lose.
Yep. In the Bible, there are witches. At least one, the witch of Endor.
Yeah.
That conjured visions and brought people back from the dead, I believe.
Yeah.
And then Shakespeare has a lot of supernatural stuff in his plays. Fairies.
In
and
Macbeth.
the three witches at the beginning.
Yeah, and in Hamlet,
The ghost.
where they talk about the ghost of Hamlet's father, and Hamlet says, yes, stayed it long, was it there for a while? And, he's disregarding the fact that this is a ghost. He wants to know how long it hung out.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of belief in that point.
Right. Well, in Julius Caesar, we have the, there's a name for it, but it's the cutting open of animals to discern what
Divination,
is divination. And there's a lot of divination that's associated with witches and ghosts and things like that. So we've got this historical sort of interesting time. And then we move, from the Elizabethans into the Victorians. Now I think of the Victorians as being kind of staid and
Stodgy and polite
yeah.
behavior.
And
right?
what's your take on that, Jacob? Victorians.
I have not done my research on them, so I guess I couldn't tell you much about them.
Okay. I think, like Queen Victoria, very, very prim and proper.
Yeah.
Yeah. They let it all hang out on October 31st, right, Ralph?
They did. And, one of the things, and this goes back to a little prequel that we gave you a few minutes ago, one of the things they did was they had a lot of parties, Halloween parties.
The adults did.
The adults did.
Yeah.
The kids, not so much. But the adults had gatherings where they did things like seances and they did things like fortune telling and so on and so forth. But often one of the ways that they invited people was to send them a carved pumpkin
Uh-huh.
with a note in it.
Yeah, okay.
And the note said, please attend the party at such and such a place at such and such a time for luncheon, for dancing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And in terms of divination, this might be where young women would seek clues as to who their future husbands might be, right?
Right.
And not cutting chickens apart, but rather bobbing for apples, looking in mirrors, finding people's initials, that kind of thing. Those are all games that were being played. But you said a note in a pumpkin?
A note in a pumpkin.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that we had by the time of the Victorians,
Yeah.
pumpkins essentially came from North America.
Right.
Like tomatoes, they were not something that was, native to Europe.
Right.
So they had pumpkins, and they started to say, okay, yeah, this is cool. We can carve pumpkins.
Mm-hmm.
We can put candles in them. We can make jack-o'-lanterns to scare away the monsters.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so put a jack-o'-lantern in your house, light it up, and the monsters say, oh, there's already a monster there. I'm not going to get involved.
It's inhabited already. Okay.
Yeah. So you say to yourself, oh, well, that's when they started that tradition. No, it's not.
Okay, you're going to give us the real story here.
Yeah, because
the rest of the story.
Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, well, before we had the Great Pumpkin, what we had was the Great Turnip.
Do it in your voice, right?
Faith, and we've got a great turnip here, and it's carved out, and it has a scary face on it, and I'm putting it in me front yard to keep the monsters away.
Hey. So people carved turnips, and you can go on the internet and put in carved turnips or turnip carving, and you can actually see these images.
Yeah. And the thing is, now, any of you who in any way, shape, or form are cooks know that a turnip, which grows as a root in the ground and has to fight off the soil bacteria and so on and so forth to keep itself healthy, tends to have a thick skin and a hard center.
Uh-huh.
So carving a turnip is not like carving a pumpkin. You don't just whip the top off and take out the seeds and say, okay, now I can make a face. You have to really work at
it. Okay.
So carved turnips were a little bit hard to do. But you say, well, why did they give up the British tradition of the carved turnip? Well, when the Irish came to North America to avoid the potato famine and starving to death, they said, well, turnips are 3 for $6, and pumpkins I can get 7 for $6. So pumpkins are cheap.
Pumpkins were cheaper than the
Than
turnips, which was the food stuff that they were used to anyway.
Yeah, so I can eat
nobody-
turnips. I know how to do that.
Yeah, nobody was used to eating pumpkin at that point in time, right?
Except
swine.
maybe cows
Yeah.
or horses or something.
Okay, so you're not going to carve up your nice turnip. You're going to go to the pumpkin, which is what? Easier to carve,
Easier to carve.
Bigger, so that
Bigger,
you can put a bigger
cheaper.
candle in, cheaper. Okay, so that's the genesis of the pumpkin. Now, pumpkins are not real cheap these days. You know, a good Halloween pumpkin is about $5 yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's October 30th. Tomorrow, that same pumpkin is going to be worth about 50 cents, I think.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have with the Victorians then this adult celebration, if you would. And it seems like it was mainly in the middle class or upper class. I'm not sure what the plebeians were doing back then. Any idea?
I think they were going to the pub and trying to trick or treat for gin, and it wasn't working very well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, you know, we see a decline in the use of Halloween until relatively recently. There's a great YouTube video, and I would suggest that our viewers find it. I think all you have to do is put in Halloween 1948, and it's a picture of mom and pop, and they're walking down the street, and the kids are there, and they're just having a good time, and it's, you know, very much like, a cover from a Saturday Evening Post.
Okay.
And it's just, I showed it to Sheila, and she just loved it. She said, that's the Halloween that I remember. Okay.
Right.
And it's kind of the Halloween that I do, as well.
Now, the thing about that, Jim, is there's profound psychological reasons why Halloween would have a resurgence at that time,
Okay.
marked by the end of the Second World War.
Right. We want to breathe and have some fun, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People were coming home. They had come home in 46 mostly.
Yeah.
47, the automobile industry, which had switched to making tanks, was switching back to making cars. People could afford houses,
Yeah.
and basically
Good
life
time for
was good
celebration.
and it looked like
Yeah.
it was getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, why not have a celebration?
Mm-hmm. And it's another almost 3 months until Christmas. So, we have not had a celebration since the 4th of July. So this is just a good time for it, right?
Right.
Okay.
And it's still the traditional harvest time.
Mhm.
Harvest is over and in. And in 48, still many of the people, if not most, I think most, were agricultural.
Yeah, that's very true in this country. And when I say this country, even though Halloween started with the Celts and moved into other parts of England, it has become very much of an American holiday, an American tradition. Although it's now becoming more international, other people in other countries are taking on the Halloween spirit, and it's become big business. Billions of dollars are being spent every year on the thing that your neighbor has, the combination graveyard and monster mash thing.
Yeah. And, the fact that I went out and, bought for $3 a clown mask, a scary clown mask, and for $2.50 a cat skeleton. And of course, the skeleton has become, because it's easy to make in resin, it has become now a thing in which we kind of honor the dead and kind of scare ourselves.
Yeah. Now, I'll mention to our viewers that we did a Halloween 2025 video that is right up here on our YouTube page. It's about 3 over from where we are right now, and it's about 3.5 minutes or so. And there's some skeletons in there. There's some scary scenes, but it kind of ends in an upbeat way. Yeah. So if you have kids, you can show your kids. I showed my grandkids. They thought it was sort of cute.
Now, the other thing, and we talked about the overlay of Christianity on the Celtic pagan festivals. There's another thing that's kind of interesting, and it sort of says why we went from the Norman conquest of England, and gradually through history we saw a waning of the celebration of Halloween until the Victorians brought it back for adults. And part of the reason has to do with the introduction of Protestantism into England.
Mm-hmm.
So up until that time, if you talked about the church, you were talking about the Catholic Church. So we had Halloween, All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, or vice versa, actually. And Protestantism came in and said, oh, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And so they de-emphasized anything had to do with purgatory or souls.
Mm-hmm. And people coming back from the dead in the thin places and things like that.
Yeah. And then that carried on until the Victorians. And then after the Victorians, we kind of got into the 1900s.
Yeah.
So we had the threat of World War I, which was coming. Then we had the Great Depression. Then we had coming out of that, and things were looking up. And we might have gone back to celebrating Halloween, but we had the threat of World War II. And so until 1948, there really was historic socioeconomic reasons not to be celebrating Halloween in the same way.
Okay. Now, we're going to direct you to our show notes. We talk a little bit about, we summarize what we've done here this morning, but if you take a look down below under Learn More, there's a Try This, and it's a recipe for Witch's Brew, Ralph.
Okay.
It looks like a pretty good recipe, so I would suggest that you either try a cocktail or a mocktail. We have the specifications, for both of them there.
Yep.
And
If you leave out the vodka or rum, you have a mocktail.
Right.
But you can still put a little piece of dry ice into your drink, and it will give you eerie smoke rising.
Yeah, and hang a couple gummy worms over the edge. Okay. And also, a treat for you, I mentioned that Oak Island Obsession is out, and it is available for reading. You can read a sample, and hey, you can treat yourself by buying your own copy. So
you can do that.
now I have to put my glasses on to figure out which button I push, Ralph.
Since none of them are lit, I can't say push the lit button.
Well,
If you had a number of the cocktails, you might push the lit button. Oh, no, push the button lit.
well, until next time, this is Jim
And Ralph,
saying keep
Happy-
your stick.
happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
And
Good.
keep your stick on the ice because we're all in this together.
Thank you, Jacob.
Of course.